The morning sky over Ashbury, Oregon, was heavy with clouds. A thick mist hung low along the pine-lined roads, and the earthy scent of rain still lingered from the night before. Everything felt damp. The sidewalks, the leaves, the old picket fences lining the neighborhoods. It was the kind of gray morning that made the world seem paused, like it was waiting for something. Maya stood at the rusted gate of her new school, Ashbury High. Her gray and white uniform looked untouched, too crisp for the setting, as if it had just been peeled out of plastic. A black backpack clung to her shoulders, and her fingers tightened on the straps. She took a deep breath and stared up at the building. It was old. 2 stories. Once painted white, but now stained by decades of rain and moss. The walls were cracked in places. Ivy crept up the bricks like veins. To a casual glance, it might have seemed like any other outdated public school in a forgotten town. But Maya felt it immediately. The silence wasn't peaceful, it was wrong. She stepped forward. Her black shoes clicked against the tiled corridor floor, echoing far too loudly. For a school morning, it was eerily quiet. Where was the chatter? The laughter? The slamming of lockers? Nothing. Just the soft rustle of the wind through tall, skeletal trees in the courtyard. After checking in with the front office, she was escorted by a staff member to her new classroom, Grade 12, Social Studies Section B, located on the 2nd floor of the West Wing. The teacher, Mrs. Evans, knocked gently before pushing the creaking door open. "This is Maya, a transfer student from Seattle," she announced. "Say hello, everyone." Maya stepped inside, stiffly. Dozens of faces turned toward her. Most were blank. A few held faint curiosity, but none smiled. "I'm Maya Putri in India. I transferred from Rainier High," she said quietly. "I'm glad to be here." Silence. For several uncomfortable seconds, no one responded. Then a soft voice, barely audible, from the middle row. "You can sit by the window, next to Mira." Maya nodded and made her way to the back. The girl with glasses she sat beside didn't even look at her. No greeting, no small talk, just indifference. The first few days passed in a fog. During lunch, most students remained seated in the classroom, speaking in hushed tones. No one laughed. No one argued. Even group discussions felt forced, like everyone was afraid of being overheard. There was something unnatural about it. The teachers weren't much different. They smiled, yes, but it never reached their eyes. The halls stayed quiet even during break periods. The school bell, when it rang, had a strange, hollow chime, not digital, but like an old church bell buried in the ceiling. Maya wanted to blend in. She really did. But the whole school felt like a stage set, and everyone was acting. She found some relief in the library, or at least she thought she would. The Ashbury High Library should have been her haven. But when she stepped inside, her hopes sank. Shelves sat mostly empty. The few books there were ancient, the pages yellowed and curling at the edges. Worse, the air smelled musty, like forgotten memories and wet wood. Still, she kept coming back. Then one afternoon, as she walked the back aisle of the library, she heard it for the first time. A whisper, just faint enough to make her doubt it, like a child's laughter echoing just around the corner. She peeked. No one was there. She told herself it was her imagination. Maybe nerves. Maybe the loneliness of transferring midyear to a town like Ashbury. But the feeling didn't leave. It crept under her skin, quiet and lingering. That Friday morning, everything changed. Maya had arrived early, wanting to read before classes. The fog still clung to the windows outside, and the school felt colder than usual. As she walked past the science wing toward the back stairwell, she saw someone standing against the wall. A student, still motionless, with his back facing her. His clothes were wrinkled and wet, like he had walked through a storm. Maya stopped. There was something wrong about him. His posture was too stiff, like a mannequin. She stepped closer. The hallway seemed to absorb all sound. Her footsteps vanished before they could echo. She was just 5 feet away now. "Hey," she said quietly. The student turned around, slowly. Maya's breath caught in her throat. His face wasn't human, pale as chalk. Eyes rolled back, showing only the whites. Mouth open in a silent scream. Hair long and matted against school regulations. Maya stumbled back. The figure didn't move toward her. Instead, he walked calmly through a nearby open door and vanished into an empty classroom. She ran. Back to her own class. Back to the false safety of her seat next to Mira, who barely acknowledged her arrival. That night, she barely slept. From that point forward, Maya began to notice things she had previously ignored. There was a framed painting at the top of the stairwell, old and faded, but she swore it shifted slightly every time she passed it. Like someone was moving it at night. The south wing bathroom was always wet. No running water. No plumbing noise. Just puddles. Always fresh. And there was a wellness room on the third floor, supposedly unused, but it always smelled like fresh linens and rust. Once, she passed by and could have sworn she heard the sound of a sink dripping, and then, something being dragged. But the strangest part wasn't the building. It was the students. Every Friday, without fail, the entire class disappeared before noon. No one stayed behind. They didn't talk about it. Didn't joke about weekend plans. They just left. When Maya finally worked up the courage to ask Mira, the girl's reply was simple. "Just don't be here Friday after lunch," she whispered. "Not unless you want them to notice you." "Who?" Mira just looked down and returned to her book. Friday came again, gloomy as ever. The clouds over Ashbury hung low, and the fog rolled in thick over the parking lot like silent smoke. Maya had made up her mind. She wasn't leaving early like the others. Not this time. That morning, she lied to her classmates. Told them she had a makeup session with the algebra teacher. Mira looked at her briefly but said nothing. Just a long, quiet stare that lingered for a second too long. By 10:30 a.m., the halls were nearly empty. The office was locked. The janitor's closet was closed. Even the security guard's booth near the back exit sat abandoned. No announcements. No sounds. Just the soft hum of the ancient overhead lights and the faraway cry of a crow outside. Maya wandered the silent building, her heart pounding at every creak. She headed toward the old music room, a place she had passed many times but never dared enter. It sat in the far end of the west wing, slightly disconnected from the main building, like a forgotten limb of the school no one wanted to visit. The door was closed but not locked. She pushed it open slowly. The smell hit her first, not rotten, not sweet, but something in between. A strange mix of wet earth, burnt incense, and a metallic tang that stung the back of her throat. The room was almost empty. No instruments. Just a few dust-covered chairs pushed into a corner. But the strangest thing was the floor, thick with dust, except for one clear path of large, human-like footprints leading to the back wall. Maya followed them. There, she noticed a faint rectangular outline, a barely visible seam cutting across the bricks. Her pulse quickened. She reached out and ran her fingers along the edges. No handle, no latch, just a smooth, cool surface. But when she leaned into it gently, the wall shifted inward with the sound of old wood dragging against itself. A hidden door. Slowly, it revealed a narrow, black corridor. Maya's breath hitched. She hesitated, then turned on her phone's flashlight and stepped inside. The darkness swallowed her whole. The room beyond was small and low-ceilinged, almost like a basement crawl space. The air was moist and heavy, and the walls were covered in symbols she couldn't read, angular shapes, concentric circles, and what looked like runes drawn in deep red ink. At the center of the room was a massive, faded circle drawn onto the floor, about 10 feet wide, with strange markings around its edges. And hanging from the ceiling, dozens of wooden dolls. They swayed slightly in the still air, even though there was no breeze. Each one was unique, carved roughly, eyeless, with black threads stitched across their mouths. Some were missing limbs. A few had needles jammed into their torsos. Maya couldn't move. Her phone's flashlight flickered, and then it died. The darkness returned. That was when she heard it. The sound, soft at first, then unmistakable. Laughter. High-pitched, but wrong. Distorted. She turned to run, but her legs wouldn't obey. Her feet felt glued to the ground, her arms stiff. The air around her grew ice-cold. Something wet and cold touched her back, like a hand made of mud and bone. She tried to scream. Nothing came out. She closed her eyes, heart hammering in her chest. And then, just like that, she was back in the music room, standing near the door. The sunlight outside had broken through the clouds, casting warm beams onto the dusty floor. Her breath was ragged, her skin clammy. She had no memory of how she got out. But the fear was still in her bones. That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She lay curled up in her bed, hugging her knees, the memory of that room swirling in her mind. Her phone stayed off. Her door stayed locked. Every sound, every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind made her flinch. At some point near dawn, she opened her notebook and began to draw. She didn't mean to. Her hand moved on its own. Circles, eyeless dolls, and a new symbol, one she'd never seen before but couldn't stop repeating. A jagged vertical line crossed with 4 short horizontal slashes. When she looked down, her page was full, covered in symbols, all drawn unconsciously. She stared at it for a long time. The next morning at school, she sat at her desk in silence, her notebook tucked under her arm. Mira leaned over. "What did you do?" she whispered sharply. "What?" Myra's eyes darted to the notebook. "You went back there, didn't you?" Maya's face went pale. Mira snatched the notebook from her arms and flipped to the last page. Her face drained of color. "You can't draw these. You don't even know what they mean." I didn't mean to," Maya stammered. "These are summoning symbols," Mira whispered, low and urgent. "You draw them, they respond." "Who?" Mira didn't answer. That night, Maya had another dream. She stood in the middle of Ashbury High's football field. The building towered in the background, its windows glowing faintly. And behind every window were faces. Dozens of them. Eyeless. Grinning. One by one, they began to smile wider, their mouths opening far too much, impossibly wide. And then the laughter returned. That horrible, shrill, echoing laugh, surrounding her, filling her skull from the inside. Maya woke up with a scream, her body soaked in sweat. And at the foot of her bed, on the hardwood floor, a red circle, drawn in some kind of chalk or paint, she didn't know which. It hadn't been there the night before. She didn't remember making it, but her fingertips smelled like metal. Monday morning arrived wrapped in cold mist. The fog hadn't lifted since Maya woke up, and the red circle at the foot of her bed had faded, but not disappeared. She had tried to wipe it off with a towel, but the stain clung stubbornly to the hardwood. Worse, her fingers still smelled faintly of iron. It was as if the floor had bled. Maya walked to school in a daze, hoodie pulled tight around her head, barely noticing the silence in the streets of Ashbury. No birds chirped. No cars passed. Even the breeze felt unnaturally still. At school, everything looked the same, but felt different. The students in her class, 12B, were even quieter than usual. Some stared blankly at their desks. Others wrote in looping, repetitive patterns in their notebooks like they were stuck in a trance. Mira was there, but something in her eyes had changed. When Maya sat beside her, she didn't say a word. Not even a glance. Then Maya noticed something strange. The chalkboard. At the top, written in red chalk, were the words, "The third circle is now open." Her breath caught in her throat. She looked around. None of the students reacted. None of the teachers questioned it. It was as if everyone was pretending it wasn't there, or worse, they already understood what it meant. That day, Maya barely spoke. She watched the classroom with growing unease. One girl in the front row rocked back and forth silently. Another boy whispered something into his cupped hands over and over again, a language Maya didn't recognize. Even the teacher, Mr. Franklin, looked pale and distracted, stopping mid-lesson to stare out the window for uncomfortable stretches of time. By lunch, Maya couldn't take it anymore. She pulled Mira aside without asking and led her through the second floor and out to a narrow, unused balcony at the back of the building. From there, they could see the edge of the woods behind the school and the decaying roof of the old music room. Maya turned, gripping Myra's sleeve tightly. "I need to know the truth," she whispered. "About the circles. About the dolls. About what I saw." Mira hesitated. Then, quietly, she said, "You weren't supposed to go there." "I didn't mean to." "But you did," Mira replied. "And once you see them, they see you." Maya's skin crawled. "What does that even mean?" Mira exhaled shakily, avoiding her gaze. "The basement under the music room, it's not just a room. It's a gate to something older than this school. Something that was never meant to be opened. Years ago, students found it during a renovation. Someone performed a ritual, no one knows why. After that, the circle started." Maya tightened her grip on her notebook. "I keep drawing them," she said, "even when I'm not thinking about it." "That's how it begins," Mira whispered. "First the drawings, then the dreams, then the names." Maya looked confused. "Names?" Mira gently opened the last page of Maya's notebook. There, scrawled in dark ink, were rows of names. Some were unfamiliar. Some had already started to fade. But at the very bottom, in block letters, was one name that hadn't been there the night before. Maya. Maya's heart dropped. "I didn't write that," she said. Mira didn't answer. That night, the rain returned. Not the soft drizzle from before, but a heavy, pounding storm that shook the windows of Maya's house. Lightning flashed across the sky. The lights flickered. Her phone buzzed once, a notification with no sender, just a message. "Are you ready?" Her hands trembled as she locked her phone and tossed it across the bed. She was about to crawl under her blanket when she saw it again. The mirror. Her reflection. But something was off. She tilted her head slightly to the right. Her reflection tilted to the left. She raised her right hand. The reflection raised the wrong one. She froze. The mirror suddenly cracked down the center, a thin, splintered line that spread outward like ice under pressure. Maya gasped and stumbled backward, just as the soft, eerie laughter filled the room once again. Not a dream. This time, it was real. The following morning, Maya didn't go to school. She sat in her living room, pale and silent, her notebook clutched in her lap. Her mother eventually noticed. "Maya," she asked gently, "are you okay, honey?" "I need help," Maya whispered. "I need you and Dad to believe me." Within the hour, her father, a quiet, stoic man who worked long shifts at the local utility company, came home early. Maya sat them both down and began to talk. Everything came out: the music room, the hidden door, the dolls, the dreams, the symbols, the name. Her mother cried quietly. Her father listened, jaw clenched, staring at her not like she was crazy, but like he already knew something was wrong. Finally, he stood up. "I'm calling someone." By 11 p.m., Imam Rahmat arrived. He wasn't a typical imam. He looked like someone from another time. A white robe, a small turban on his head, and a weathered leather bag at his side. His eyes were calm, but piercing. "Has she been drawing anything she doesn't recognize?" he asked Maya's parents. They nodded. "Has she gone where she shouldn't?" Again, a nod. Maya sat on the floor, legs crossed, shaking. Imam Rahmat opened his bag and removed a bottle of ruqya water, some dried lotus and sidr leaves, and a small Quran wrapped in cloth. He dipped the leaves into the water and handed the glass to Maya. "Drink slowly," he said. "I will visit the place myself tonight." Her mother looked alarmed. "But it's almost midnight. The school." Her father interrupted. "We're going. Now." The drive to Ashbury High felt like descending into another world. The town was asleep. Fog covered every intersection. The only sound was the rain slamming against the car roof and the occasional roll of thunder in the distance. When they reached the school, the gate was open. The building loomed in the darkness like it had been waiting. No lights, no alarms, just that silent invitation. Imam Rahmith stepped out, unbothered by the weather. He carried his prayer book and a small lantern. Maya led the way, her parents close behind, every step growing heavier as they neared the music room. The door creaked open. The same smell hit them, stronger than ever. Inside, everything was as Maya had described. But this time, something new waited.